Hello, my name is Evan Rosenberg. About halfway through this course, I found myself staring at a plastic straw. What went into making this straw? And once I threw it away, what would become of it? Thanks to many of the concepts presented during this course, I now have a much better understanding of how to get answers to those questions. The answers, like many subjects dealing with sustainability, were not pleasant. I then made a conscious decision to change my behavior based on what I had learned. I quickly found out that this change was not easy. So for my project, I developed something that would hopefully encourage others to bring about this change in their lives. Because even though sustainability can be a lot of gloom and doom, one must hold on to the belief that the collective action of many can contribute towards positive change. Life without plastics is unimaginable. Every day, nearly everything we touch either contains or is packaged in plastic. While plastic straws and bags are overtly made with plastic, other products such as shoes and makeup are less obvious. Microbeads in facial scrubs are nearly invisible unless one closely reads the long ingredients lists. Analyzing the life cycle of plastic production, consumption, and disposal is as complex an activity as analyzing the effects of plastic on our lifestyles. Plastics have replaced the use of virgin materials, think plastic over paper bags, but have costly environmental and human health concerns. Efforts to reduce our reliance on plastic run the danger of being overwhelming and can sometimes be confusing. Instead, my final project focuses on the reduction of single-use plastics, such as plastic bags and cups, that we encounter each and every day. It promotes the use of alternative, reusable materials and proper recycling when plastics must be used. For my project, I've developed a framework for an outreach toolkit aimed for use by communities and small agencies to help spread awareness of the impacts of single-use plastics and support behavioral change in their local communities. This toolkit is called The Last Straw and focuses primarily on plastic straws as a conduit for information and action. I will tell you a little bit more about plastic straws later. The toolkit currently includes an implementation guide, a messaging map, an infographic, and a set of tools and activities to help participants change their behavior. Much of this guide was developed after the EPA's Food Waste Pilot Toolkit, so I want to stop and plug their efforts here. There is a growing body of research on the impacts of plastic production, consumption, and pollution. Many of us have heard of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a large area in the Pacific Ocean where garbage has accumulated in alarming concentrations. Much of this garbage comes from land and a lot of it is plastic, which degrades into very small pieces, which are harmful to marine life and can leach chemicals that biomagnify up the food chain and eventually onto our dining room plates. Researchers once collected 1.9 million bits of microplastic in just 1 square mile. Single-use plastics are a large contributor to this problem. 10% of all municipal solid waste comes from single-use plastics, but less than 9% of all plastics are recycled, and only single-use plastics are one of the least recycled types of plastics there are. These items are designed specifically to be discarded, and plastic straws, for example, only last for an average of 20 seconds. As I mentioned before, I chose plastic straws as a sort of mascot for this final project. I felt plastic straws were a particularly egregious form of single-use plastics. They are used almost all over the place, dangerously convenient, but they are seemingly avoidable. They form the ideal example of refuse, one of 4 behavior change pillars in my outreach toolkit. But more on those pillars later. Back to straws. Take a guess, how many plastic straws are used every day in the United States? Is it A, 5 million, B, 50 million, or C, 500 million? The unfortunate answer is C. 500 million straws are used and thrown away each and every day just in the United States. And with recycling rates being so low, you can only guess how many of those 500 million straws end up in the landfills, or worse, our oceans. Like many other products containing or made out of plastic, straws have been around for a long time. Historians believe they were first cut from dried shafts of wheat, Hundreds of years later, sheets of wax were coated in plastic and rolled up and sealed, forming the first reusable straws. With the advent of plastic manufacturing, straws are now made out of a formulated blend of plastic, resins, and additives. All plastics are derived from hydrocarbons. During refinement of crude oil, the cracking process produces chains of hydrocarbons which are chemically processed and later bonded or polymerized to form resins. These resins are melted and molded into all kinds of plastic products. About 6% of worldwide oil consumption is used just for plastic production, and this number is increasing. Although I highlighted some of the impacts of plastic pollution, the production of single-use plastics have a significant carbon footprint. Measurements vary, but I came across some figures, one of which said that 5 plastic bags equaled about 1 kilogram of CO2 emissions. Higher density plastics are even worse on CO2 emissions, but these can be reused depending on what type of plastic. But I'll get back to reuse in just a moment. With single-use plastics posing a threat to our oceans, bodies, and natural resources, what can we do about it? This is where my toolkit comes into play. The toolkit is designed for use by communities and agencies hoping to promote reduction of single-use plastics. I've identified 4 pillars of behavioral change: refuse, replace, reuse, and recycle. The toolkit contains a few activities and tools that are supposed to encourage this change. The first activity I developed was modified from a waste stream audit as part of a LEED certification project I worked on. It's called a waste characterization, and it is used to determine what is in a waste stream and how it may be more appropriately disposed of. In the case of my project, the waste characterization is used to inform the participant of how much plastic trash they produced and of which kind. Participants collect all plastic trash, when feasible, for 1 week. This includes plastic straws, lids, cups, grocery bags, bottles, packaging, Ziploc bags, and used containers. After 1 week, the participant separates these items according to 4 categories: refuse, replace, reuse, and recycle, and then decides on how they can go about taking those separated pieces of plastic to those 4 behaviors. The ideal scenario is refuse. For instance, when at a restaurant, you can kindly ask your server, "No straw, please." Or when in a cafeteria, you may ask for a plate rather than a to-go container if you plan on eating on the premise. It's a simple way to just cut the plastic out of your life and avoid having to deal with it in the first place. The next 2 pillars are replace and reuse, and they're definitely connected. Is there an alternative product that you can use and reuse instead? The first example that might come to mind is a Nalgene bottle. Although made from plastic, they are more durable and reusable as long as they are properly cleaned. 1 Nalgene bottle could theoretically replace thousands of single-use water bottles. Reusing plastic in itself has even turned into an art form. The final pillar is our good old friend recycle. In reality, it would be very, very difficult to remove all forms of plastic from your life, so we still need to improve on our recycling skills. And I'll get back to recycling skills in a moment. While this activity is a fun, exciting start and certainly engaging, these behavioral changes need to be reinforced. The toolkit will contain a few resources to help support these changes. The first of which is called a product guide. Similar to Yelp and Amazon reviews, the product guide lists reviews of plastic and plastic alternative products. The need for a living, breathing repository for products is a crucial need for the most part, because we still live in a buyer beware environment when it comes to so-called green products. Other resources out there include Good Guide, various consumer reports, and scientific studies, and these will definitely be included in the product guide. I thought that the idea of a community to discuss the advantages and impacts of everyday products would support lasting behavioral change. An additional resource included in the toolkit are our trusty recycling guides. There's no need to recreate the wheel here, but I wanted to make sure to cite a guide that includes proper use as well as disposal. Certain types of plastic are safer to reuse, while others cannot be microwaved or put in dishwashers. Some plastics should be avoided as well. And when it comes to recycling, there's a lot of confusing information, and recycling rates in the United States certainly reflect that. According to the EPA, the US contributes to about 1/3 of all trash in the world, despite having just 5% of the population. Recycling rates in Germany are over 70%, twice that of the US. And while images of overflowing landfills and polluted oceans show the impacts of not recycling, the lack of a universal recycling code and clarity on how and what to recycle is probably one of the larger barriers to improving our recycling rates here in the United States. So how do these messages get across, and how do they stick? For my toolkit, I've developed a messaging map that explains the 4 pillars of single-use plastic reduction, along with key messaging strategies to be used by implementing agencies. It is kind of a list of talking points for one-on-one conversations with the target audience. For example, when you suggest the refuse action, a common response may be, "But won't it be kind of weird for me to ask not to get served a straw?" An answer could be, "Well, maybe at first, but try it and see what happens." When discussing the benefits of reusable materials, it's important to mention the cost savings one may experience over time by switching to a water filter and Nalgene bottle and dropping plastic water bottles. The final piece of my toolkit is the implementation guide. The guide serves as the central reference to how these tools and activities come together, where all the graphics and templates are located, and any related research that supports the program. Like the EPA food waste pilot, I would want these materials available for download for free. Overall, there is still a lot of work to do in order to get the toolkit actually up and running. I feel that I may have the opportunity in future coursework, or hopefully in my career. It takes a lot of research and various skills to put together a well-executed program such as this. For my pilot program, I'd only require that implementing agencies report on their program's success so that metrics may be compiled and used for improvement. Guidelines for compiling these metrics are also included in the implementation guide. I hope that this presentation was informative and perhaps even convincing. I still remember looking in horror at the plastic straw in front of me while eating lunch. And I'm proud to say that since that day, I have been straw free ever since.